Tonight, lawmakers across the country are dropping a bombshell batch of 2026 laws. They're taking aim at your phone, your kids' phones, end-of-life options, and yes, your cat's claws. First, an increasing number of states are passing laws to regulate AI, hoping to crack down on deepfakes and protect privacy as the technology spreads. By the start of the new school year, school districts in California and Georgia will have to limit or even ban students' use of cell phones and other personal devices during the school day. New York, Illinois, and Delaware are set to enact laws allowing terminally ill patients to end their lives with medical assistance under strict safeguards. In California, a new law will prevent most pet owners from declawing their cats, banning the procedure except when a vet says it's absolutely necessary. And finally, my personal favorite as a Californian, a new California law will require tortillas include folic acid intended to help nurture infants. Joining us now is former federal prosecutor Neama Rahmani. Thank you so much for being with us. Happy New Year. As a former federal prosecutor, how do you see these new state AI regulations on deepfakes potentially overlapping with federal laws on fraud or even election interference?
Jessica, thanks for having me. And you're right, really AI is the newest frontier, and oftentimes the law doesn't keep up with technology. I think the challenge that you're going to have is, and we've seen it before, when you see state regulation of technology, you end up having a patchwork system, which doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. Really, with something like this, the federal government needs to step in. And I understand that there's concerns with AI, especially when it comes to minors, and there has to be disclosure. And certainly we don't want AI providing legal advice or medical advice that may be incorrect, or even therapy. Obviously, there is benefits. It provides access at little to no cost, but certainly that can be wrong. And we really need the feds to step in as opposed to each state imposing its own regulations. But we really want this technology to thrive and flourish.
Right. There's so much, as you mentioned, that we don't know about AI. Do you anticipate us needing additional laws and tougher regulations in the future?
I do. And obviously, this is just the beginning. We have seen regulations to try to chip away. And unfortunately, when it comes to AI, just like the internet, there really are potentially dangerous areas. So whether it is things like pornography or violence, the same thing that, you really want to protect your children from having access to all of that. There obviously have been cases we've heard and have been reported here on NewsNation where AI chatbots have really gone in a very dark direction, and children who have mental health issues have really been even encouraged to do things that may be self-harm. That's something that we need to prevent, and we need to regulate in a way that really just hasn't been done before.
Yeah, it's scary stuff. With states like California and Georgia banning cell phones in schools, do you think that this could lead to legal challenges over students' free speech or privacy right? And what would you have argued in court?
I do, Jessica. I'm sitting here in Los Angeles, and I have two kids in middle school, and they're going through it right now. And it's very controversial. There are a lot of teachers and administrators and parents that think that no cell phones in school is a good idea. Kids are getting distracted. They're on social media. They're not paying attention. They're not interacting with their peers in person like we used to do. There's a whole socialization component of school as well. Now, there are parents that are concerned. Look, if there's an emergency, God forbid, a school shooter, I can't get a hold of my kid. The phones are taken away. They're locked up in these pouches like you sometimes see if you go to a comedy show or a concert. They don't allow you to film. So there are a lot of parents that don't like this. And this is one of the more controversial rules here in California. One other thing that they're rolling out at public schools in California is gender-neutral bathrooms for transgender students. Obviously, that's a hot button political issue as well that have some parents for and some against.
Sure. Let's talk about these medical aid in dying laws in New York, Illinois, and Delaware. They really raise questions about consent and coercion. Do you anticipate federal scrutiny or prosecutions for potential abuse in any way?
I do, and obviously I grew up during the time of Dr. Jack Kevorkian, and then Oregon was really the first law that allowed these compassionate end-of-life cases. So most of these states, if you do have 6 months or less to live and you have a certification, you can choose to voluntarily terminate medical support that would allow you to live, or even potentially taking it one step further, having a doctor prescribe you a lethal dose of medicine that will compassionately end your life. Now, obviously, there are people on both sides in the medical community and elsewhere. People think that, look, if you're suffering, if you're terminally ill, you have cancer, you have a right to make that decision. Other people think, well, doctors should be in the business of prolonging life, not terminating it. And are people really in the right state of mind to make that decision? What if there is the possibility of some cure? So certainly the types of laws that are very controversial, both in the medical and in the civilian community.
Okay, as a Californian, California's cat declawing ban sounds pretty straightforward. We're also talking tortillas. But back to cats, will it hold up against challenges from pet owners or vets?
I think we're going to see that challenge come. And obviously, California has been pretty aggressive. I wouldn't be surprised if something like this ends up being knocked down. You know, I know people don't like to hear it, and I love my dogs and cats, but under California law in most states, they're considered property. So restrictions on what you can do with your property might be struck down. There are also laws in California that are trying to really crack down on these puppy mills. They really want folks to adopt. Obviously, there are a lot of cats and dogs out there that don't have a home. But again, you know, when you do have these types of restrictions limiting property, sometimes courts are really hesitant and they say, you know what, this is going too far. And, you know, California, of course, has been no stranger to pushing these types of legal boundaries.
Okay, Neama Rahmani, thank you so much for being here. Happy, healthy New Year to you and your family.
Thanks, Jessica. Happy New Year to you, too.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.